Hi there. Today we're going to talk about carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are generally known as optically active polyhydroxyaldehydes or ketones. That's a description for carbohydrates. Remember, notice the word optically active. What does that mean? Optically active. One simple word you can give for optically active is that it is chiral. So we have studied about chiral in the chapter coordination compounds, which have non-superimposable impossible mirror images. So carbohydrates are chiral molecules and they are polyhydroxy. They are hydrates of carbon, and examples of carbohydrates are glucose, fructose, sucrose, cellulose, and starch. And carbohydrates are generally classified into three categories, namely monosaccharides, oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides. Now, what is this monosaccharide? So, monosaccharides are compounds, carbohydrates, which cannot be broken further into smaller units. Monosaccharides, they are at their base, they are fundamental units. They cannot be broken down into smaller units. That's why monosaccharides. So monosaccharides, some examples of monosaccharides are glucose, fructose, and ribose. And then we have oligosaccharides. Oligosaccharides are those saccharides which on hydrolysis do break down into simpler monosaccharides. Oligosaccharides on hydrolysis break down into gets broken down into monosaccharides. So what are oligosaccharides? They are carbohydrates which gets broken down into 2 to 10 units of monosaccharides. Yes, oligosaccharides give 2 to 10 units of monosaccharides upon hydrolysis. So some examples of oligosaccharides are sucrose, lactose, and maltose. So these three are the important oligosaccharides that we learn about in this chapter. I think these are the only three oligosaccharides that you need to remember about. The speciality about them is there's one thing common between them. So remember, oligosaccharides give 2 to 10 monosaccharides, and these lactose, sucrose, and maltose are also known as disaccharides. Why? Because they give 2 monosaccharides upon hydrolysis. And sucrose gives, you need to remember this might come in exam, they always ask this. Sucrose on hydrolysis gives one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose. And then we have lactose on hydrolysis we obtain one one unit of glucose and 1 unit of compound called, sorry, lactose gives two, pardon, so sorry right there, but glucose, there are two molecules of glucose. So sucrose gives one glucose and one fructose, meanwhile lactose gives two glucose. You need to remember that. And then we have maltose, sucrose, lactose, and maltose. Maltose gives one molecule of glucose and one molecule of galactose. And after that, that's disaccharides, and disaccharides come under oligosaccharides. Now the next category is polysaccharides. Polysaccharides, from the name itself we can understand that it gives many saccharides. Polysaccharides, on hydrolysis we get a large number of saccharides, and examples of them are starch and cellulose. These are the two main ones which we study about in this chapter, and that's their classification. And you should also note this that saccharides is a Greek word for sugar. It's not, it comes from the Greek word saccharon, which means sugar in Greek. And then disaccharides are in the form of crystalline solids, and they are also soluble in water. Importance of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates act as a biofuel for living organism. They are more or less our fuel. They more or less they support us in our day-to-day activities. They give us energy. So they hold a very big importance in our lives, in the functioning of living systems. and they also act as a storage molecule, aka reserve food. So what is reserve food? In plants, plants reserve starch in them for, for emergency food, for reserve food. When they don't find food, they use the starch for food. They store it inside themselves. Likewise, animals also have reserve food. They reserve carbohydrates in them in the form of glycogen. So starch reserve food in plants, glycogen reserve food in animals. That is very important. Note it down. And then we have RNA and DNA are two kinds of nucleic acids which we'll learn about later in the chapter, and these are biomolecules which contain important, they are very important, and they also contain carbohydrates. RNA contains the ribose is a monosaccharide we discussed earlier, and also DNA contains 2-deoxy-D-ribose. So RNA contains a carbohydrate named ribose, and DNA contains 2-deoxy-ribose. And then we have the other importance of carbohydrates is that it, you know, cellulose is a carbohydrate, and it helps, cellulose is a structural material for the plant cell wall. They give it the structural design, they make it stay straight. So yeah, cell wall, that's what makes a plant straight. So cellulose, that's one. And then we have carbohydrates as raw materials for many industries. So carbohydrates is used as a raw material for many industries like textile industries, paper industries, and also for lacquers. So what is lacquer? Lacquer is a coating for wooden materials in your doors. So lacquer makes wood shiny. No need to remember that, just for information. They're also used in breweries, alcohol or other kind of stuff. And then we have another category of carbohydrates, which is reducing sugars or non-reducing sugars. Another two categories. So reducing sugars are those sugars which have free aldehydic or ketonic group, and hence, because they have free aldehydic or ketonic group, they are reduced into they reduce filling solution and tolerance reagent. These reducing sugars have free aldehydic ketonic group, and hence they reduce filling solution and tolerance reagent. And then we have non-reducing sugars. From the name you can guess that they do not reduce filling solution and tolerance reagent. They have, because they have no free aldehydic or ketonic group. The other one, reducing sugars, they have free aldehydic and ketonic group, aldehydic or ketonic group. But non-reducing sugars, they do not have free aldehydic or ketonic group, hence they do not reduce tolerance or filling solution. That's it for this one. See you in the next.